to say thank you very much for giving Q2 and MTN some time today to discuss a number of issues that certainly are very important to us here, and I'm sure are very important to you in DC, and as you come back to meet your constituents here in Montana. I'm going to just give you the floor, if you don't mind, for a second to give us just a little sense of, okay, here's what we're feeling here in DC with COVID impacts, with race relations, with protests. I'll let you give us a sense of where we're at today.
So first of all, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. It's interesting. We've been at this for over 13 years, and this is the first time I've done this with anybody but a newspaper. And so this is pretty cool. And so I will tell you that if this works out, we ought to do this more regularly, quite frankly. If it's of value to you guys, I think that there's an opportunity to do this as much as you guys want. We try to do, to be honest with you, we try to do the newspapers a couple times a year. But you guys are in, and I'm not bad-mouthing newspapers, you guys are in a little faster flowing business. And if you want to do it every quarter, every month, every week, hell, I don't care. We'll make time for you. So thanks. So COVID-19, of course, is what's on everybody's mind all the time and has been for the last 3-4 months. And as you well know, I'm not going to get into the fact that I think the federal government could have played a much bigger role in this than what they have. And I think it would have been better for the country. That's water under the bridge. The truth is I think the governor did a good job in closing things down early, which we're allowed it to open up quicker. That's not to say that I'm not fully aware, and I know you guys are too, that there's a lot of businesses out there that may not reopen. Businesses in the hospitality industry are just getting hammered and continue to be hammered with very, very few exceptions. If you're in the hotel business, bar business, restaurant business, if you have a gym, those businesses are just flat getting noodled. And I wished I could tell you guys that, you know, the economy, as it has bounced back. Look, I flew through Denver yesterday, and Denver airport had a lot of people in it. The plane I flew, I have to fly out of Missoula because that's the only plane I could get, was packed. They were buying seats on those planes. They bought 2 back. Got on the train, as you guys know, in between the concourses, you had to get on early because they were packed. The doors shut. If you didn't get on early, they'd shut you out. So things are coming back in that venue. But the truth is that there's a lot of small businesses in Montana that are going to continue, and we're seeing the numbers increase, which is, we're still in pretty good shape, but it's still something we need to continue to monitor. There's no doubt about that, and I know the governor is. I think that there is potential of another COVID package, but make no mistake about it, we need to continue very, very strict oversight over the packages that have been passed up till now, to make sure we know where the money is going, to make sure that we've got everybody on deck, inspectors generals watching, making sure the taxpayer dollars aren't wasted. And then I think that come the end of July, there may be another package come forth. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on McConnell to bring a package to the floor. And I'm not talking about pressure from inside Congress. I think from outside Congress, from municipalities, from businesses, from you know, just different programs, that we aren't out of the woods yet, and we've got a ways to go to be out of the woods on this pandemic. And so, you know, as far as the pandemic goes, we're looking at it from 2 different sides. We're trying to get as much input from Montanans as we can to make sure that the money that has been put out, which has been very, very, very significant and necessary, I might add, is being spent the right way, and then try to fill in the gaps with the next package, wherever those gaps may be, or shortfalls. From a police reform standpoint, and what's happened over the last month, it's been pretty amazing to watch, to be quite frank with you. Not only in the big population areas, but in Montana, where we've seen folks make their voices heard in towns that you wouldn't expect. I was told a couple of weeks ago that Bozeman had 6,500 people. I mean, oh my God, that's unbelievable. And I don't know what Billings had, I don't know what Great Falls, Missoula, or any of the others had, but when you have rallies in places like Choteau, Montana, which isn't exactly a metropolis, that shows you that there's a lot of concern out there. And I think it is incumbent upon Congress to act. The Scott bill that you guys may be familiar with and maybe not, I don't know, but there's really not a lot of meat on those bones. There's nothing there, quite frankly. And I think the last thing Congress needs to do at this moment in time, when voices are very loud out there and we're all hearing them, is to put up a bill that is just a shell that sounds good but doesn't really do anything. And so, I don't anticipate there will be cloture got on that bill for a number of reasons. Number one, I don't think there's a lot of trust, at least on this senator's part, for what Mitch McConnell may promise and then pull back on once we get on it. And I think the last thing we need is to pass a bill that doesn't do anything. And there are some no-brainer stuff, no-knock warrants, militarization of police. There's some other stuff too. I mean, it's just we ought to be able to get it done moving forward. So we'll see. We'll see if this is done now or if it's done later. But I can guarantee you this, and you guys know this. This issue is not going to go away. It's just not. I wished it would. I wished it could. I wish we were more mature as a society than we are, but it's where we are. And so it'll continue to be out there until we do something meaningful to do it. And it's got to be smart too. I mean, you got to be able to deal with these issues in a way that police have a tough job. We all know it. There are some bad apples. There's no doubt about that. We've got to figure out a way just to hold folks who do egregious actions accountable way. That's all. And while we protect the good cops out there, they're doing their job every day and risking their lives every single day. So that's it. On a more happier note, we did get maybe the best lands package done in my tenure here last week. We got the Land Water Conservation Fund fully funded after we fully authorized it here last year. That's a big deal. It's something that Montana is going to be able to benefit from in a way that maybe no other state in the union is going to be able to. And plus, it makes significant investments in our national parks. So that's good news. And I think it's something that we're going to be able to see, even though now, as COVID has really raised hell with our outdoor economy, recreation economy, we're going to be able to see the benefits of it for decades and decades and decades to come. So that's just a little overhaul of what kind of got going on, John, but
Well, Senator, I'll just jump in. This is Jay, and along the police reform lines, and what do you want to see in that bill? And to move that a little bit forward, what about removing statues and renaming bases? Where do you stand on that as we sit here?
So, look, I mean, we rename stuff all the time, and I think that's less of an issue from my perspective than the statues are. I mean, it seems like we shift stuff around all the time to honor different folks who come to the front. The Senate Armed Services Committee passed a bipartisan amendment to set up a process for reviewing and potential removal of statues that are in the Capitol. I think there's 11 of them, is what I was told. Montana's are not, as you know. We have Jeanette Rankin and C.M. Russell. So I think that's the right way to do it. Montana was set up long after the Civil War was over. And so I have a different perspective on a lot of this stuff. I mean, it doesn't make the hackles on my neck stand up like it does for other people. So I think to have a process to be able to sit in somebody else's shoes, to be able to get good input on why something should be potentially removed, I am absolutely open to. And I think that's the right way to go about it. And so that amendment will be put on the National Defense Authorization Act. I'm pretty confident if it's not already on there. In fact, I think it was put on there in committee. If it doesn't get stripped out on the floor, which I don't anticipate it will, and the House takes it up, then we'll have a process to be able to review those, get public input, and try to do the right thing. It is an interesting time that and it's been going on for what, 160 years, that statues were built to people who wanted to destroy the Union. I think it's kind of an interesting concept. We don't typically do that, but maybe you guys have some examples of what we've done the last 30 years of people who have done that. But, I mean, look, we'll get input, we'll move forward, and we'll do the best we can. Yeah.
What do you want to see in that police reform bill?
Jay, you keep me on task. I mentioned a couple things. I think the making it so we're not militarizing our police is important. I think that it can cause problems, and so I think that's important. Banning chokeholds, no brainer. No knock warrants, same thing. I can tell you that the bill that a whole bunch of people worked on, Booker and Harris on the Senate side, is a bill that we're taking a lot of input on from Montanans of every walk that we can get to try to fully understand it. I am not an attorney, so a lot of the legal stuff, I want to make sure we're doing the right thing that doesn't put people in a situation where it puts police at a disadvantage or allows police to abuse the authority that they have. And so we've got to more closely look at the standard of evidence. And I think that if we're able to, and I think we can find a sweet spot for that moving forward. So yeah, those are just a few, but it's a pretty long bill. I mean, I haven't totally gone through it word for word yet, because there's no assurance we're going to take it up on the floor, even if it does pass the House. Otherwise, it'd be a different situation.
Hey, Senator, let me jump.
Go ahead.
Let me jump in on one that I remember talking to you a couple of years ago, and it was after a significant incident in the United States about how polarized our country is. And we lamented about that 2 years ago, and it feels today we're nowhere better. We might be worse off as a country, as a society, as dealing with issues. And is there how big of a role does the U.S. Congress play in that? Or where from Washington should we look for leadership to try to start to mend this and get to a better place?
Well, John, unfortunately, you're correct. I think we're more divided. We're more just disjointed than I can ever remember. It's very unfortunate, and I can tell you that I think, and it's not just because I serve in the Senate, I think Congress plays a huge role in that. I think Congress is divided. I think the country is divided. It's interesting because I had a breakfast this morning. The Secretary of the Air Force was down in John Bozeman's office, and we were having a nice visit, and we brought up my days in the legislature, and I said, it was a 90-day session, and we fought like hell the first 45 days. The second 45 days, we got together and we actually did some stuff and got some things done. And I said, because it was a 90-day session, there were sideboards on it, and we knew if we didn't get it done, the press would rip us apart. For example, if we didn't get a budget done, they would tear us to pieces. So we had motivation to get things done. It's just not the case here right now. And I can tell you that a lot of people say, well, it's the rules need to be changed. I am not one that believes that. I think it's leadership, it's the people that are here. And I think that, I've told you guys this before, and I mean this, I've got a lot of really, really good friends on the other side of the aisle that I go to war with. And, Bozeman's one of them. Mike Rapo's another one. You guys know about the experience I had with Johnny Isaacson. He had my back when I needed somebody to have my back. And so, and the Corkers of the world and all those guys, they're really, really incredible people. But we've got to push back on our own leadership. And I'm talking about Republicans need to push back on their leadership, and Democrats do to ours too. It's less of a concern right now with Democrats because we're in the minority in the Senate. But the truth is that when things start heading south, we got to be able to push back. We got to say, no, that's not the way this thing's going to work. And I think that's not what we're seeing right now. We're seeing. I talked about the fact there's not a lot of trust with Mitch, and it's the truth. And I don't see a lot of folks pushing back on it. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But the truth is I've had Republicans tell me that, leadership told me I've got to do this. So even though I feel different about it, if I don't do this, then they could potentially run a primary against me. I've got a little different opinion than others, and maybe it's because I'm from Montana, but I had a job before I got this job, and I'll have a job when I leave this job. And if you're not here to do the right thing, what the hell are you here for? But that's not the real issue here. Is that I think we need to push back against leadership more. And I think that's really the problem. I really do. I can tell you that if campaign finance reform was done, and I don't want to beat this drum, but you guys know it, and it would have negative impacts on TV stations. I'll just tell you that because we'd have less money to spend. But I think it's the key to making our government work again. I think it's caused a paralysis in this country that is making this country weaker by having people looking over the left shoulder or the right shoulder, depending if they come from a blue state or a red state, concerned about a primary opponent run against them if they make the wrong decision. And since one person can throw so much money at these races, if on my side, if I tick off the Koch brothers, Katie bar the door, there's going to be millions of dollars pouring into the state. And if you get in a state that is red, it's the same way. I mean, you know what I mean? It can have negative impacts. I'm tending to wander around here too much, but you get the idea. There's a number of things that are broke, I think, that are causing this problem. Pushing back on leadership, campaign finance reform. I think if those two, if we fix campaign finance reform, it would allow people to push back on leadership. And so where are we going to get the leaders from moving forward? Well, I mean, you do the best you can do. At least that's what I try to do. And then if you take a look at the people that are on the ground, that are out there, and I'm talking about the ones that are doing the peaceful protests, that's where our leadership appears to be coming from right now.
Okay, Tanya, I have to just show you that Tanya joined us, and she wanted to say hello.
All right.
Hi,
How are you?
Senator.
Good to see you.
Executive producer here at Q2, and it's always good to hear the political side of things, but people also like to have the personal touch of things. So can we have a little fun for a minute?
Oh, sure.
Okay. First thing, I'm a farm girl from Thermopolis, Wyoming. You're a farm boy, and going to the big city is a lot different. So what's a day like for you in DC?
Oh, wow. Well, I will talk today. Pre-COVID,
Okay.
it was a little bit different. But I come in, I usually try to get in the office about 8 o'clock, and it's just a series of meetings. Instead of being in person, they're either on the telephone or they're on Zoom or WebEx, and just gather input. We both in state and both with folks back here and my staff, picking people's minds, because I'm not going around the state. I'm not having the public meetings like I had pre-COVID. So I'm depending on my eyes and ears on my staff to pick up a lot of the stuff that's going on. And then those meetings usually go all day long, and I usually shut down 6 or 7 o'clock at night. That, by the way, is a much easier schedule as far as time spent than I had pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, since there's a gym here, that I can't use now. I know some of the senators are using it, but I'm not going to use it because of COVID. I usually got up an hour and a half earlier and worked out as much as I could, and then came in at 8 o'clock and did it. And then oftentimes would have a get together with a senator or a staff member or somebody that might be in town from Montana and catch a beer. That kind of stuff just isn't happening now.
Yeah.
And so,
What do you miss most about being in Montana? It's such a special place here, and you go to DC, and it's a completely different place.
I always tell people the air is better in Montana, and that's a fact. I mean, the truth is that when you get off the plane in DC, especially in June, July, August, September, it's debilitating. It's just, I mean, you breathe in it and go, holy shit, I'm living in a sauna,
Yeah.
And so it's, I miss the air, to be honest with you. And it's a different place. I used to go through Thermopolis, Wyoming. My dad was originally from Salt Lake, and we go through Thermopolis going to Salt Lake every spring to see.
Well, it's a good place.
His brothers. Yeah, no, it's
Those
cool.
hot springs.
The name Thermopolis says it all right there.
It does. Thermo City, hot city. Okay, so what do you do to relax? There's no farming. There's no politics.
No, this is going to sound really weird, but on Father's Day, you know what I did?
What?
I spent 12 hours on the tractor because I could sit there and think about anything I wanted to think about. If I wanted to listen to music, I could turn on the radio. And I actually saw myself getting stuff done. And it might seem weird to you. Agriculture drives a lot of people crazy, but it keeps me sane.
It does. So it is farming.
It is
That's
fun. Yeah,
that's what you love.
that's what I do. Now, I would tell you that I would love to get back to days where I could run up in the bear paws and do some creek fishing and that kind of stuff. But there's just not a lot of time for that. So we'll stick with farming as relaxation.
Okay, one more question. I like to talk a lot, so
Yes, she
they're
does.
limiting me. You have a degree in music,
I do.
so I'm curious. Favorite music, soundtrack, musical, singer?
Well, okay, so I'm going to really date myself here. I mean, the Three Dog Night and the Doobie Brothers, I crave those songs. I'm a trumpet player, so Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass was, I still love, all those songs, the Tijuana Taxi, Spanish Flea, and Whipped Cream, and all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
So those are that. I'm still a creature. I'm an old hippie, the 1970s stuff is still pretty high on my list. But I will also tell you that if I was going to pick out one singer right now, all politics aside, I should say Pearl Jam, but I'm not going to. And this is going to drive you crazy, maybe because it drove my mother-in-law crazy. But I'm a big fan of Hank Snow. Hank Snow. Now that's a big difference between the Doobie Brothers and Three Dog Night and Creedence Clearwater Revival and all that stuff. But Hank Snow has got a beautiful voice, just beautiful.
Huh.
And that's old school country music.
I know, a good old boy, yeah.
Man.
I guess they're cutting me off.
I'm cutting you off because
All right.
Jay's got more questions.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah,
Bye.
good to visit with you. Thank you.
Hey, John. All right. John, can I ask a question? Senator?
Absolutely, Justin, jump in.
I'm going to ask for your help a little bit. I've spent the last 3 to 4 weeks. I've had a chance to speak with a lot of our business partners, business owners that do advertising with us, and I think the sense I've got is people are pretty optimistic, but they're cautiously optimistic on where we're headed. You look at things like our unemployment rate a little bit less now than the national average. I guess my question is, and as I'm thinking about our business here, and I'm talking to Mr. Saunders and the leadership team of Scripps and so forth, what is your outlook for the economy? And what do you think in terms of the work that you'll be doing out there in DC? What will have the biggest impact? And I'm mostly curious, is, we're planning now for Q4, but we'll be heading into our budget season real soon for 2021. And as I'm thinking about, what's going to happen with our economy and how that affects us and how we have to obviously manage our business.
So I would just, and look, and I say this in all truthfulness, if there's one business over the next 5 months that's going to be shield from economic downturn, it's you guys. And I'll tell you why. Because Steve Daines and Steve Bullock, there's going to be a lot of money flow through you guys' doors. You guys know that. You saw it in 18, you saw it in 12, and you saw it in 6. This is another one of those years. Now, Bullock got in, later, so otherwise there'd be even more money spent. But the truth is that the floodgates are starting to open, and you guys are going to see that happen. So that's good. Now, I will also tell you that I think the economy is going to pop back. I think it's going to take some time. I don't think it's going to happen really, really fast. I think people need to be very cautious with how they're spending money, and just it's going to take a while to get back to where it's open. In fact, I think that until we get treatment or a vaccine or both, I don't think you're going to see the kind of confidence to be able to go out and spend money. But I think it's going to pop back. I think it's going to take a few years, but I think we're going to be stronger than before, because I think this coronavirus has taught us some things, and it's made us more efficient. And I mean, for example, I think, and I don't know this is going to be the case, because I think a lot of people like to come back here because it's kind of a paid vacation for a lot of these trade groups, but we're doing better business via Zoom than we are, or whatever platform we're using, than we are in person. More people can participate. It's cheaper. It's quicker. I'm going to tell you, I think it's better. And I think that's going to stick around to a certain extent. And that's going to save businesses and trade groups some money. And I think that's going to help. And also from healthcare, I think we've seen some real advantages with telehealth. Now, at the federal level, we've got to make those infrastructure investments to make all this stuff work better as we move into the 21st century. But the truth is from a healthcare standpoint, the social requirement of social distancing has required people to be on telehealth, and I think it's provided some real benefits. I've seen it within the VA, and I know it's there in the private sector too. And I think if you talk to some of the folks in Billings Clinic at St. Vincent's, they will tell you that there are some real benefits here that we've learned, and we'll be able to take those and move forward. And so I think it's going to take longer than a lot of the politicos will tell you to bounce back fully. But I think we're going to see it continue to go. I think the thing that can really raise hell with this, quite frankly, is if we get real intense areas of COVID-19, then that could slow things down. But even then, it's still going to bounce back. I mean, Fauci said today that he thought we'd have a vaccine by the end of the year, the first part of 2021. That's good news, but it's going to take, it's not going to be easy either. It's going to take some work. We're going to have some businesses that don't make it. They're just the way it is. I mean, we've already got businesses that haven't made it, and they're not going to reopen. But in the end, I think the ones that are able to get through this are going to be stronger, and they're going to be better able to compete and moving forward. And I think that this has set up a whole new set of entrepreneurs out there that are going to be able to take advantage of some of the technology and some of the things we've learned to be able to set up even more businesses. I'm very bullish. I just think we have to be patient. And I would also tell you that the infrastructure investment is critically important, but also know we just clicked past $26 trillion in debt here a few weeks ago. And I think that is an issue that we have to deal with, that we haven't dealt with like we should have over the last 4 or 5 years, quite frankly. And we need to get back to a point where we're being more accountable for the money we're spending, and we need to make sure that we're getting the balance, because we're putting more money out than we're taking in by a long shot, and it's been particularly tough these last couple months, but necessary, I might add, but particularly tough. And if we get to catch another big wave, it's going to require even more of a resource package to put out, which is somewhat concerning to me, but it's still going to be necessary. I mean, I think we do need a fourth package on COVID, and it's all going to be borrowed money. But I think if we don't do this, it'll just take that much longer to get the economy to come back.
Thank you.
Senator, let's talk about Steve versus Steve. What kind of role do you anticipate you will play You're the standard bearer for the party. You took it on the chin from President Trump in the last election and survived. What do you foresee in this COVID election year?
You know, it's interesting. I don't know how they're doing it, to be honest with you. I know how they're raising money. They're doing it just the same way I'm talking to you guys. But getting out to voters is tough. I mean, I think it's the advantage they have is their name recognition on both of them is probably in the high 90s, and they both have a record that they can go back on and be either advertise or be critical of. My role in this is I'm gonna help Steve Bullock any way I can. I think Steve is a good man. I think he's a straight up guy, and I think he's done a great job as governor. And I will help him within my limits to be able to help him be successful. And I would say the same thing for Cooney, and I'll say the same thing for Kathleen and the statewides too. I mean, they're all important. And if, you know, folks want my help, I'm more than happy to roll up my sleeves and give them the help that I can moving forward.
Senator, I see today that the president is in Arizona, and it's a little bit of a microcosm of him because he's traveling, holding an event in a closed arena with COVID concerns, and he is touting his southern border wall and certainly taking on his format for immigration. Just a comment on where you feel our chief executive is as far as leading our country in June of 2020.
Well, I can tell you that as with most issues, I mean, I believe in a secure border, and I think we ought to make sure that we don't let bad people into this country. I think how you get it done is where the push is. I'm very opposed to the wall. I think it's a gross waste of money. I think there are areas where it makes sense, but they're building it all the way down. He's got billions and billions, I think 12 billion, maybe more than that now. And I should have the exact figure because it's my appropriations subcommittee that's appropriating the money for it. But I can tell you that technology, I think, is where the future is, and technology is where you get the biggest bang for the buck. That being said, I think I don't to be honest with you, I just don't understand. I think the COVID thing is really I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to blow off as a hoax. And, you know, I guess, you know, out of 330 million people, 120,000 people dying ain't that many. But the truth is that I think it's a big deal. And I think it could get worse. And I think people look to a certain extent to people like me and like governor and to a greater extent to the president when they see him doing things like not wearing a mask or just saying, oh, this is no big deal, or the thing's over with now, don't worry about it. I think you can say that, but the truth is it's not truthful. It's not reality. And I think that's dangerous. You know, so, but you know, I would also say this, you know, I've got plenty of reason to be critical of the president, but the truth is that every once in a while he does stuff that I agree with, and I support him in that. I mean, he talked about cutting off Brazilian beef here a couple of weeks ago, and somebody asked me about that, and I said, I think it's a great idea, you know. But the truth is that on this COVID thing, I think he missed a lot of opportunities. I mean, look, the economy was his baby. I mean, that's what he was most proud of. There's no doubt about that. And I think because of a lot of denial, and this is my opinion, I'm not a shrink or anything, but because of a lot of denial, I think that it's caused the economy to be in tougher shape than it would have been if they'd have jumped on it, took it seriously at the beginning, understand they were going to take some hits, and but really lead like it was a war effort. And that's not what's transpired here at all. And shifting responsibility, and you know, I have some issues with what's transpired.
Jay, are you next? I'm ready. I
Go
got more.
ahead. I just want to know, when was the last time you didn't have a flat top? Because that was really the discussion for quite a while.
You know what? Yeah, that actually kind of threw us for a while.
Yeah, well,
We're glad you're back.
no, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I just got a fresh cut last Friday, as a matter of fact. It was probably the late 80s, be my guess. I can't really remember, to tell you the truth. We were digging through some pictures the other day, and I saw me with hair, and I mean, longer hair. And, you know, I mean, I told you guys a story. I mean, both my brothers are bald. I got my nephew was bald. My dad was bald. My uncles on both sides of the family were bald, and my brothers were giving me crap about going bald. And they'd pull my hair back and say, "See, your hairline's receding. I can see it." I said, "To hell with you guys." So I went and got a crew cut. I liked it.
Looks good. Looks good.
Hey.
Yeah, that was, yeah, for a couple of days, Senator, I got to say that was the biggest talk of the newsroom.
Well, I was just gonna keep it long until we got a vaccine for the coronavirus. But I got to be honest with you, it was driving me nuts.
I'm gonna transition to energy issues. They've been off the table for a while.
Yes.
However, we have big issues in front of us, especially in our region, with the ultimate end game for Colstrip. How do you look at our energy issues that we're faced with right now, and that it feels like they've taken a back seat, but yet they are right there in front of us?
No, there's no doubt about it. The energy is very, very important, and affordable energy is critically important. I think, I mean, the Colstrip situation, or should I just say the coal situation, is an interesting one because, investment has moved away from coal in a big, big way. You've got the issues around climate change that are real, and people are concerned about that. And then you've got Colstrip, that is a great town. There's no doubt about that. It's a marvelous little town, and it's a town that has been impacted greatly with the country moving away from coal. And I just think that's had the biggest impact on it. I think as far as Colstrip specifically goes, we've got to make sure that it is cleaned up. Joe Manchin had an idea here a few years ago that I actually talked about in my campaign in 2018, that I think if we could ever get things done in a functional Senate again, makes sense. And that is, if we're making investments in energy, whether it's natural gas, whether it's renewables, whatever it may be, whether it's some technology that may be coming out of the universities, I think it would behoove us to try to direct that technology to places like Colstrip, to be able to utilize not only that workforce that's there before it leaves, but also the infrastructure of power distribution that's there. And so that's the first thing. Second thing is that I think we've seen petroleum, fossil fuels explode because of fracking. I don't think there's any debate on that. We've seen natural gas prices affordable. And so we still need to continue to work on becoming as energy efficient as we possibly can. I think we still need to invest in research and development to try to find, things that continue to keep oil and natural gas and all energy, as far as that goes, affordable. And so that's where and I say that's where Congress needs to continue. I think putting a priority on research and development of new energy sources that are climate change friendly. Let's just put it that way. And so that's pretty much where I'm at. As I told folks a long time ago, carbon-based fuels aren't going to go away very quickly. It's going to take time to make the transition. But I think with coal, we've already started to see that transition. And I still think we need to stay ahead of the curve on alternative energy sources moving forward, whatever they might be.
Along
my
those
last-
same lines,
Go
Senator,
ahead, Jay.
I was just going to say the Trump administration has rolled back a legion of environmental laws while everyone's focused on the pandemic. Seems like it's been a deliberate attempt.
That's correct.
How do you feel about that? It seems like the public, their guard is down, and all this is getting washed away without much comment.
Yeah. Well, it's a two-edged sword. I mean, you undo regulation, and business tends to like that. Although I will tell you that the problem with that is then when the pendulum swings back, it becomes much worse. I think that once again, there's some denying going on what's going on in the climate. I can tell you that we've had 6/10 of moisture at Big Sandy, 12 miles west of Big Sandy, Montana, since the snowstorms the first part of April. It's damn dry. And last year I was getting washed out. I mean, there's almost too much moisture. So and you know, we have a change in climate in Montana all the time, and it's always been that way. But it just seems like it's more severe now than it's ever been in my lifetime. The extremes are more extreme. And I think that's it. So, I mean, Mother Nature's trying to tell us something. We need to listen to it. And I think by undoing the regulations, and I'm not saying undoing the ones he did are all bad. There may be some that need to be redone, but he's doing it in a wholesale fashion that's not, I don't think it's good. And I think, as with anything, when the pendulum swings back, it's going to make it worse. And you guys know this. What business needs is they need predictability. They need certainty so that they can plan for the future. And I don't think this is I don't think this is conducive to good certainty and to good planning.
Sorry, Senator, my last question is on the Outdoors Act.
Yes.
And the fully funding of the LWCF for the average person in Montana. Most people love the outdoors here, and they look at it and they might not know exactly what's in it for them. So looking at that bill, and I know you fought for this a long time, and to get it fully funded is especially, I guess I found it surprising.
Me too.
Tell people what's in that bill for them.
So it's 900, fully funding is $900 million. That's a fair amount of cash. And by the way, that was set up that way when it was first set up 40, 50 years ago. What it will do, and you guys have heard of the checkerboard that we have. We've got federal land, and then we may have private land, and we got another federal land, and we may have a state one kicked in here and there. What this will do is help consolidate those acreages through selling of easements. I mean, that's the main thing. And in Western Montana, they have used it, particularly on the Blackfoot, an amazing way. Kept those ranchers in business, has allowed some of them to expand. So from an agriculture standpoint, it works. And then on the other side of the coin, for Joe Public, you don't have to be a millionaire to go hunting or fishing or hiking. You don't have to own a big old ranch to be able to go out and breathe in the great outdoors. And because of this money will be leveraged by private sector dollars, and there will be land that will be able to be preserved, still be used by people who want to graze and all that stuff, because it's still owned by the ranchers, but the easements will allow it not to be developed. And that will allow folks to have cleaner water, cleaner air, and hunting habitat like we've never seen before, if this is fully spent like it should be, and it will be. And also, you know, we've got some of the best rivers and streams to fish on in the world, and it's going to continue to be able to allow more employment, more economy, and better quality of life. So I think it's money well spent. I consider this infrastructure dollars that we're spending. And the thing that's important about this, and it's why I've been fighting for this for my tenure here in the Senate, is that there are areas, there are ecosystems that simply are not going to be there to get those easements on in 10 years, because they'll be, you know, that rancher goes broke, he'll sell out to somebody who wants it as a, you know, trophy hunting ranch or something like that, which happens all the time. And so this is an opportune time to get this done. And I'm very happy. I'm tickled pink it got done, because I think the full advantages of this will be seen long after all of us are gone. And I think people will look back and say, you know, our grandkids and great grandkids, and say, you know what, this was incredibly smart of them to do this, and for all the reasons I said before. So, bottom line, I would just say, John, it's about improving quality of life.
Okay. Justin or Jay, anything else to add?
There has been quite a bit of press out here about how that bill got passed and the politics involved. I recall back in the day when President Reagan got involved in our wilderness bill and killed it at the very end. At least this seemed to be a success. Everyone can wave the flag, but do you care about how, you know, the old saying about hot dogs and making of laws? If you respect either, you shouldn't watch it being made, and that seems to be very applicable here.
I got to tell you something, Jay. You have been around a while. You remember Melcher's wilderness bill that he pocket vetoed. That's pretty darn good. I will tell you that this is a big deal, and I'm just tickled pink it got done. I'm glad, whether Mitch did it for political reasons or whether he did it because he thought it was the right thing. He probably did it for political reasons, but I don't really care. It got done, and Trump is going to sign this bill if he's true to his word, and I think the House is going to pass it as we passed it. And in the end, a year from now, nobody's going to remember any of this. I mean, the truth is, but you know, we're going to have the benefit of a pretty aggressive program to allow Montana's quality of life to be able to maintain and actually get better.
Okay, Justin, anything else?
Who knows? Maybe in a month and a half, nobody will remember it. So, you know.
I was just texting my boss, Mr. Saunders, and he said, I said, you got any questions? And he said, yeah, ask him when he's going to come and
Ask him when he's going to what?
So ask him when he's going to come to Bozeman and have a cigar with him.
If you're going to Bozeman and have a cigar with him sometime soon.
Yeah, you're damn right. I got to do that. They say that cigar smoke keeps the COVID viruses away. So
keeps everything away. Flies, bugs,
COVID. It's great.
Yeah.
Hey, just one final question about veterans and
Yes.
the COVID threat to veterans. I know that's really close to your bailiwick back there. What are we not thinking about, and what is the situation there? Are they in good shape, so to speak, as the rest of us are? It seems like they may be even more vulnerable.
Oh, they are. They're absolutely more vulnerable because they got comorbidities. I think that the VA's done a good job. Look, in fact, I'd even say that they've done a really good job, quite frankly, because there could have been far more deaths that didn't happen. A lot of the nursing home deaths that happened were in state nursing homes. Particularly, I think Maryland was where the big ones were, Massachusetts, and I will tell you that they're specifically prohibited to going into those state VA nursing homes by law unless they're invited in. And when they were invited in, they went in. I think if I'm going to be critical, I think a lot of the work that they've done in regards to consultations have been put on hold. And I don't necessarily think that has to be. This is another one of those things where telework and telemedicine can play a bigger role. And I think that they should use that capacity. That's a direction they've been trying to go for years. And I've encouraged them to do that because in rural states like Montana, it works if we've got the internet connection. And so I would say if I was going to be critical, their consultations are down. A lot of their benefits programs have been put on hold, and a lot of these veterans, of course, they're getting older and they need help now. They don't need it after they die. And so that's it. I would say the other thing, and time will tell on this, but we heard a lot from employees on the ground that they didn't have enough personal protective equipment. The folks back here tell me that that has been remedied and that they're in good shape. If a second wave comes along, we shall find out. I can tell you that I don't know if you guys have looked to try to find an N95 mask, but I've tried. I've tried to get one. I got one from a contractor, and he gave it to me out of the goodness of his heart. But you cannot buy those damn things. And if you find out where you can buy them, let me know, because I want to buy a few of them. Because I'd like to wear them on the airplanes to help protect, because the airplanes are getting fuller and fuller. But no, I think overall though, Jay, the VA is, I would give them solid marks for what they've done during the pandemic. And I think they've reached out and done a pretty good job. They've, look, here's another one. I can be critical of what's gone on here, and you guys know all about the Ronnie Jackson stuff. But Wilkie's a pretty straight shooter. I like him. I think he's a decent guy. His head of medical benefits is, or the medical side, I should say, not medical benefits, is a guy named Stone, he's top flight. I mean, he's top flight. And by the way, I will tell you that the scouting report on him was that he just rolled over with anything that Trump wanted him to do. He's not been that at all. He's been very much a medical doctor that has tried to do the best by America's veterans. And I've got a lot of respect for him. I got a lot of respect for Wilkie. And we fight. We do it. He knows it. But the truth is that I think he's done a decent job. They can always improve, but it's the biggest healthcare system in the country. So when you get that big, there are problems that happen to arise. But I think they're rolling. The medical records haven't gone in near quick as I want them to, and part of that is I just it's just it seems like we spend a lot of money on technology and never see any of the benefits. And you could really, if they got that in, it could really be a great benefit to veterans as they transition out of the Department of Defense into VA status. But we'll see.
Okay. Senator Tester, we've taken up an hour of your time, and we certainly appreciate this. This is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm glad that we got a chance to do this today. And I will take you up on the offer to do it again, and hopefully we can do it sometime soon in person.
So all you have to do, John, is get a hold of Sarah Feldman or Roy or Andy, any of them. And we'll get you plugged in. I appreciate the opportunity, and I think that the thing about it is if we do these more regular, it won't be an hour; it'll be a half an hour. You know what I mean? We'll get through the stuff. So thank you all very, very much. Enjoy the light and air.
We got a little bit of Hank Snow on the way out. Hang on.
That's good.
I need a little of a voice, John.
You gotta love it. Yeah.
There it is. Moving on.
There you go.
You gotta love moving on.
That's it.
All righty.
Not bad for a Canadian. All right. We'll see you guys.
Okay. Thank you, Senator.